In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
And we are live. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to just jump right into this. We've got a very interesting guest. You might have heard about a situation on TV, the third Trump assassin, which really wasn't a Trump assassin. It was like basically a hit job by a. We'll get into it. I'll let him explain it himself. But himself, sorry. Sorry, I've got. But yeah, let's go ahead and.
Hey, how you doing? The audio's
not bad.
Yeah, the audio's cutting out a little bit, but hopefully it's good on your end.
Yeah, it sounds good here.
Okay, great.
Yep.
How you guys doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, good.
So,
yeah.
You had a little run-in with the police while going to a Trump rally out in Coachella, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go over a little bit of what happened.
So yeah, I'll tell you all about it. In fact, if you guys, anybody of the viewers out there, go to Not Them Miller. It's basically my name, Them Miller, but with a not in front of it. That you'll see something pinned to the profile, which is basically audio that I recorded in terms of my first interaction with the police, where I declare the fact I'm the one that drove up to them and told them that, or this particular officer, before even entering the parking lot, and that's a distinction that needs to be made here because a Trump rally is not the parking lot. The parking lot and the Trump rally are two separate locations, and I know this because we've done a lot of media around Trump. We cover a lot of these rallies, and I know that they make these two locations separate because assassination is not only done via bullet, but it's also done via car bomb. Think Timothy McVeigh style car bombing, which could probably kill a lot of people if they had those two locations close, right? Also knowing that, in Nevada, which is my experience with most Trump rallies, literally 100% of the people I know have guns in their trunk, right? In the back of their trunk. But what they do is they park their car, then they walk half a mile minimum to get to the actual rally location. And then you actually have to pass another perimeter where you're being checked, they're making sure you don't have weapons on you and that sort of thing, right? So that's a knowledge with which I went in. And I say this because a lot of people, or not a lot of people, in the beginning, a lot of people were like, oh, you must be an idiot for trying to get guns into a Trump rally. And that was never even, possible, probable, even a thought in my mind, because I know about the geography, how this stuff works, right? So in the same style as, whenever I'm out there going to Trump rallies in Nevada, I see a police officer, and whenever I see a police officer, I let them know that I have guns. And the experience that I've had in Nevada is that, most of the time they're actually flattered that I would give them that information and essentially operating in honor, letting them know just in case somebody tries to break into my SUV. And therefore, the cops would know, and nobody wants their gun stolen and that sort of thing. So most of the Nevada cops, like I said, are great about that kind of information. They don't they even tell you to turn around because they know these are two separate locations. They say, obviously, if you don't take it to the actual rally perimeter, then it's cool. In this case, I did the exact same thing and recently released the audio because what I did as I was driving up to the Trump rally, and I would say this is purely just a journalist instinct, was that I get my recorder out and I start recording. And then I drove up and I see this police officer left of me. I roll down my window. I call him over. It's very clear from the audio that he starts coming from a distance as I'm waving him down. And you could hear his voice getting closer. And then he's right by the window and you could see his voice getting louder, right? Or you could hear his voice getting louder. And you hear me say, hey, I'm here, for the Trump rally. And I just want to be straight with you. I got firearms in the back of my truck, but, I'm also a Trump, team member in terms of of, I've been helping get votes for Trump in Nevada by making phone calls, knocking on doors, asking people that I know that normally would not vote to vote for Trump. And so once I make this statement, I could see the guy's kind of, different kind of look, different kind of look than what I get in Nevada. So I even offer you guys are welcome to hold on to the guns if you're nervous about the car, being parked, with guns inside it, And at this point is when he tells me to pull over, and subsequent to that, they put me under arrest. Now, the sheriff I heard make insane statements where, like, at least we didn't have to shoot him. And what you hear in this audio recording, which is again pinned to my profile at Not Them Miller on Twitter, is that clearly there was no threat. There was the declaration of firearms. This would be the first time in the history of humankind that a potential assassin would let the police know that he has firearms in the back of the car. And mind you, these aren't even the kind of firearms that would be used for that sort of an assassination. One is a shotgun, which I can't remember the last time a shotgun was used for assassination. The other one's a Glock. And both these are so bulky, by the way, that if you visually looked at me that day, I'm wearing like a black shirt like this, jeans, and sandals. So one would think, like, if this was a tiny 22 or a one shooter, I get it. It would look like I'm trying to conceal it. But neither a Glock nor a shotgun is concealable in that kind of a situation. So then this opportunistic sheriff gets on stage and makes the announcement to the entire world that he's caught another potential Trump assassin, calls me a lunatic, calls me all sorts of names. Which, by the way, I've had like a mental health kind of analysis done, and they've said I'm actually really bright and together, and that have no mental health issues. This is a verifiable. Hey guys, did I lose you?
No, it dropped on my end also.
Yeah, I think it dropped on
Ye-
it then.
Yeah, I heard
Oh,
verify. That did you get a mental health check after the incident? Before the incident?
no. This was before. This was before. The point that I'm trying to make is mental health professionals that are like actually, that are types that could actually decipher something like this. Have said that I'm of great mental health, but this individual, based upon nothing but lies and his political ambition, went out there and made the most outlandish statements, and he put the Riverside County at risk. And this morning, I was actually at the on a phone call with the Riverside County. They have a meeting. Everybody gets 2 minutes to speak. I went up there and told them what was going on, and lo and behold, there was about 20 individuals. And if I was to approximate, I'd say about 12 of those individuals were there talking about patterns and practices of this sheriff, where he has a history of breaking the law, $7.5 million lawsuit he's lost, multiple prisoners dying under his care, under his watch, accusations of bribery, corruption, whistleblower cops basically being threatened. I've heard about websites where they put things on there for cops that do not toe the line, meaning if there's something incriminating about those cops, like the dude's cheating, they would blast it out, cheating on his wife, they would blast it out on this website to essentially make these cops' lives living hell if they do not toe the party line in terms of what Sheriff Bianco wants to do. So this is a criminal operating under the color of law, using his badge, using his position to commit crimes, to cover up crimes. And so that's what we've been exposing. Now, the bad news for the sheriff is that he has said that he's not going to release the body cam footage, because we know multiple individuals that have gone to him and asked him to release the body cam footage. He says that the feds are in charge now, whereas the feds had an opportunity to interview me, and so did the Secret Service, twice on that day, October 12th. First 3.5 hours in, the next time 6.5 hours in, and both times they declined to even interview me. So the bad news for the sheriff is my instinct told me that I have to record this whole thing. So as I was driving up, I had my little handheld recorder recording, and when they arrested me, that recorder was in the car, right? So not only do I have evidence of everything that I just told you, I have evidence of multiple police officers and agents within his purview actually committing more crimes, more deprivation of rights. Because what happens when you have a recorder and it went for 12 hours before the battery ran out, and these guys are ransacking my car unlawfully, unlawful search and seizure, talking about committing all sorts of crimes, and you know what? They were recorded the whole time. So we don't even need the body cam footage. Although if we do have the body cam footage, you'll find further deprivation of rights, which is that my blood sugar wasn't well at the time when I arrived. I wasn't feeling well. I begged them for my water, which had supplements in there that would have regulated my blood sugar and also my heart rate, which was, my heart was bouncing out of my chest because I just was not. What's up?
I bet it was.
Sure.
Yeah. And the reason this was because I was feeling unwell, and they stuck me in a sauna, basically, in the back of a police car with no air condition for an hour, hour and a half. Didn't allow me to use my water because they had this crazy theory that there was something in the water that would, essentially like cyanide. They didn't say the word cyanide, but they insinuated that I might have something in there that would off me and whatever. So they didn't give my water, for a really long time while torturing me in the back of a police car. And that's on their body cam. So I know they don't want that released. I think with the recordings we have on its own, this department is going to be heavily investigated. That sheriff is going to be out of a job, and he should be criminally charged with his deputy because, frankly, they're criminals. They're criminals, and this is an example of how far our country's gone from constitutional order to literally criminals running the show. And so, that's kind of where we are right now. And lawsuit's been filed. It was actually filed a couple of days after this incident. And we're going to take these people to task. There's a lot of great things that could come out of this situation, which is the deprivation of constitutional rights in California in terms of Second Amendment with their ridiculous statutory laws that contradict the Constitution. It's not the same in Nevada. Nevada is much more in line with what the Constitution says about the Second Amendment, and a lot more. I think this is going to be a nice little cleaning of house, so to speak, of one of the most corrupt counties in the entire country.
Now, there's a few questions that I have for you because there's some I think might be misinformation going out about you.
Oh, everything's this misinformation because of what the sheriff put out. I'm still having to put out fires. Like there was a $5,000 bail. There was no $5,000 bail. I didn't get criminally charged. I got a misdemeanor ticket, something that according to California law should have been at worst $1,000 ticket up to the judge's discretion. But that's not what they did. He wanted to play hero cop so he could basically go for the governor's position. And that's obviously not going to happen at this point.
Okay. One of the things that people keep on saying is that you're a sovereign citizen.
Sovereign citizen is the most ridiculous term in the world. I mean, I've done enough podcasts and research on that topic prior to these events. So sovereign means free. Citizen means essentially you're a ward of a state, a ward of a national trust. So sovereign citizen is like saying you're contractually obligated, you're free. It can't be both. You're either contractually obligated or you're free, right? So that's a new conspiracy theory, right? They used to call people conspiracy theorists so they wouldn't snoop into the JFK assassination or UFOs or whatever. And that's a fear tactic because they say that sort of thing. They've made it purposefully a nonsensical statement. Just like when you say conspiracy, you don't add the word truth to it because a conspiracy is a conspiracy. By adding truth to it, you're negating the power of what a conspiracy is, right? Same sort of thing with sovereign citizen. This was made by people that want to create a scare tactic because what happens when you go down the rabbit hole of what a sovereign citizen is? Well, firstly, you find out that it's a complete BS term, but then you find out that there's other things that they haven't told us, that these guys that are running, their corporation haven't told us, and they don't want us to find. Because if you do find out about those things, then you will actually know what your full lawful rights are. And they don't want you to know that because they want a bar controlled, legal society controlled, statutory law world where these kind of scumbags could operate. Because the closer you get to common law, the closer you get to trust law, the closer you get to natural law, and the violation and deprivation of our rights stops with that knowledge. So this is just a fear tactic word.
All right. Another question I have is they said that you're caught with counterfeit IDs.
You know that again. I mean, this man is a liar. Let me put it this way. Look up what counterfeit IDs. Look at what that looks like if you're caught with counterfeit passports or counterfeit IDs. There's tangible. It's a felony, first of all. Tangible prison time. You would not be talking to me today if I had fake IDs.
Well, yeah, that's why I asked the question, because there's still a lot of media organizations that are repeating that,
That's
and it
great. That's great because we
makes
started lawsuits, and it'll be nice to add other parties to these lawsuits. So let them keep repeating the nonsense, even though they've been long ago served notice. And this is another legal tactic that you do in common law or constitutional law. They've been long ago served notice that it is BS. But these media outlets, while they've been very liberal about inviting this criminal sheriff onto their show to defame me, a lot of them haven't, most of them haven't invited me. And that includes Newsmax, by the way, which is kind of heartbreaking
Wow.
that they're too scared to interview me while actually giving that criminal airtime, including Fox News, you know? So really what's happened is the wheat's getting separated from the chaff right now. We're realizing that even some of these organizations that claim to be on our side are nothing but so. I mean, I was always suspect of, I knew Fox was gone. I was always suspect of Newsmax, and now it's becoming, very clear that Newsmax is part of this nonsense. And we can't go forward as a country and have freedom of speech and freedom of press if you got these cowardly organizations that are fine with selling propaganda and lies, but they won't expose the truth, despite there being evidence that what I'm saying is 100% true.
Now, did you have stolen license plates or fake license plates on your car?
Once again, I tell you, like, they gave me a ticket. I've shown the ticket on many shows. It's on my social media. It was 2 counts. One was for 14 bullets in a gun instead of the cap of 10. The other one was because my mag was loaded as opposed to separated, which, by the way, are totally lawful in Nevada, which is with the law that I know. I never became a gun owner until I moved to Nevada. So if I had done anything wrong, it should have been cited. The reason they're saying that sort of thing is they're trying to go down to the sovereign citizen theory, as opposed to, they don't have a legal understanding of what private plates are. I had private plates. I wasn't cited for it. You know why I wasn't cited for it? Because if I was cited, there is no citation, by the way. If you have no license plates, it's a $199 ticket. So they could have said that this is equivalent of having no license plates. They didn't do that, because you know why they don't do that? Because they would lose in court, because I had the legal right to do what I was doing. Otherwise, I would have got ticketed for it. Just like if I had fake passports, fake ID, I would have got a felony. So it's what his perception of the law is, and you realize this is a corporate officer. It's not a peace officer. This is how our institutions have been robbed from us by a corporation, as opposed to the intention of what they're supposed to be. He's supposed to be a peace officer, but that's not what he's doing. He's got his own twisted version of the law, which must be scary that somebody like me understands the law better than he does. And this is where we're at as a country right now, with individuals like this usurping our rights. And we've all seen it, and it must come to an end.
Yeah, definitely. It's a totally interesting situation about everything. You were at the RNC, weren't you?
Yeah, yes, sir. I was, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me that someone who went to the RNC supporting Trump, they would have noticed that right away and said, "Okay, well, this guy's definitely not an anti-Trump guy that's trying to kill him."
Yeah. And like further to that, I've been to countless Trump rallies. I've been in private rooms where Trump's at. Many opportunities to do something nefarious if I had that kind of a mentally ill mind. The funny thing is, podcasters that are not necessarily studied in law all have told me that, look, man, one cursory glance of your social media, of your America Happens network, americahappens.com, shows me that these claims that the sheriff is making and his deputy is making are absolutely insane. So again, we arrive at a problem there. Why is it that, podcasters like us could immediately decipher the truth, while Sheriff Bianco had no semblance of truth? I mean, that is a scary idea, that this is the man policing Riverside County, and he can't even do a cursory glance of what exists out there before going up to the podium, call me a psychopath, call me mentally deranged, claiming that I made verbal statements. I am here to kill fill in the blank. You know what I'm saying? That should be really scary to people. And you know what? Maybe this story's climaxing at the perfect time, because we got our man here that's talking about bringing lawful order, constitutional rights back, the rights of we the people, running for office. And this is revealed something to a lot of people, including a lot of leftists that I work with in Hollywood that hate my politics, that a lot of them unfriended me, but a lot of them kept me as friends. But, you know, they look at my posts where I'm talking about the fake media since 2018 and releasing content that they might find objectionable. And now they have a friend of theirs that, or colleague of theirs that they know is not an assassin, slandered worldwide. So I actually think that the blessing in disguise here is we're going to be able to get a lot more votes for Trump by people that were horrified to see this, because so many of them know that I'm not a person capable of such horror.
Yeah, I don't think that this guy's like trying to be anti-gun or anything like that. I think he just wants to be uh famous, or wants to be like
Well,
a hero.
Well, if I could explain some of the, so I've had thousands of pages of stuff sent to us from whistleblowers within the department, other people that have had their rights deprived by the sheriff. You know, in one instance, he sent out a memo saying that anybody that was either injured or suspended was having their gun rights taken away. So there is evidence that, you know, just more so that this guy is not the constitutional conservative he makes himself out to be. And I think this is a perfect example, because at best, his officer should have said, okay, you declared your guns. And by the way, we could play that audio if you'd like to hear it. It's only 1 minute long. I don't know if you guys have heard it already, but at best, they should have said, you know, and this is via law, by the way, their law says that at worst case scenario, it's $1,000 ticket. So what should have happened, and what I've heard happen at many other rallies that are not run by, you know, goons like this, is that they simply tell you, you know what, there's too much risk. Just, you know, do a U-turn, drop your guns off somewhere else. You're free to come back once you drop it off, or they simply tell you to go home. What they don't do is make you out to be one of the, you know, 12 most notorious people in the world that have either attempted to or have assassinated a presidential candidate. So that insane leap over there just tells you, I mean, how much, okay, in the legal world, there's something called patterns and practices, right? How much patterns and practices do you have to go through that you feel so emboldened to do what this gentleman did? Okay, you have to have repeated instances. And he said, oh my God, I was so surprised he filed a lawsuit, because most people can't file a lawsuit because it costs millions of dollars to do the lawsuit, which actually gets to the crux of the problem here, because it should not cost money for us to go sue criminals like this. You know, it should be in common law where you don't need a team of lawyers to do it. But because of the legal societies, the corruption of the legal societies that work in unison with these corporations, and that police department being a corporation that's easily findable if you go to, you know, like Dun and Bradstreet, that it is indeed just a corporation. That's how they usurp your law, your powers. And this man thought, you know, there's no way this guy's going to come after me, even though I'm doing something repugnant. Well, you know what? He's been corrected.
Yeah, so now you have a lawsuit going on.
Yeah. And I think it's going to get bigger, because there's media outlets out there that, despite being served notice, and that's another legal term, once you're served notice that, hey, what you're putting out there is fraud, and you continue to do it, then there's a legitimate claim to be made. And now this story has been out there for, you know, whatever, last 10 days. The record's been corrected for those that want to seek the truth, but yet they put out the same nonsense that the sheriff put out. So again, this is corporations in cahoots with one another. People talk deep state. Well, you know, I don't know if I'm not going to put a title on it, but they're simply collaborating. They are part of the same nonsense and lies. They are part of the same targeting. They're part of the same civil rights violations, deprivation of rights, disinformation, or I should say, you know, slander. And so, you know, I think it's an opportunity for us to hold them accountable. And there's other opportunity here where California's laws are grossly unconstitutional, and the fine that they gave me, or that They will give me at the highest, which is $1,000. There's no jail time because that's jail time only if you have priors of doing violent things. And I've never had even such a misdemeanor, much less a felony. So, worst case scenario is $1,000. Probably the best thing to do is not pay that $1,000. So I'm not admitting guilt because that's their kind of plea bargain method, and fight this and say, yeah, it's unconstitutional. I don't agree. I don't consent to these unconstitutional laws. I don't consent to your unconstitutional statutory laws. And let's fight it out and get it to the proper court so we could reverse those ridiculous laws in California and make an example out of them, just like we're going to make an example out of Sheriff Bianco
Yeah,
and his deputy.
yeah. When the story broke, I did a video, and my video was like, "This doesn't add up. This just doesn't make any sense."
Mhm.
I pulled up everything. I was like, I've looked at this. It's like it's not. It doesn't. It doesn't jive. And I did a video saying, everyone's saying this, but I don't think that's the case. Uh,
Mhm.
I wish
Yeah.
more people would have done
I mean, dude, do you have a degree in criminal law? Like, or are you just a regular person with brain cells? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, why did the sheriff do the things that he did? It's obvious that any normal person with brains knows that this is not the case. And the craziest thing is, I got to thank, like, I always knew Mindy Robinson, my business partner, would stick by me regardless of what happened. But I got to thank the immense number of individuals in the freedom movement that came to my support. First, starting with Roger Stone, that came guns blazing, knew that I wasn't that kind of guy. Patrick Byrne, Ivan Raiklan, General Flynn. I mean, you name it. The entire movement came to my support. And a beautiful thing happened during all of this is that there was this immense tide. And you remember when the first assassination attempt happened, it was like popping sounds, he tripped, all that kind of nonsense. But when it was this instance, and it wasn't a real assassination attempt, it was Van Miller, third assassin, big headlines, right? And the entire world, mainstream media complex, came after my name. And within
Oh yeah.
24 hours, our ragtag group of patriots corrected it and turned that tide back, which I think is a beautiful thing. I think it shows us we are experiencing incredible times here where we have the opportunity to basically lay the knockout punch on these propagandistic outlets that really just poison the American people and destroy the American people. Like, we need a media that is actually truthful, fair, and free. And that's not what we have right now. But with shows like ours, what we do at the America Happens Network, AmericaHappens.com, with what you guys are doing, with what a lot of other podcasters are doing, we're going to redefine the future ourselves. And given the opportunity, I mean, prior to these events, I actually was working on a bill with the higher ups at the Republican Nevada Party, to basically fund the new media and at the same time put regulations in place that do not censor people, but allow one to address disinformation through lawful recourse, like sending notices, right? This is part of common law. It's part of biblical law. You give notice, right? So let's say, there's this guy named Greg Webb, or whatever his name is. He's been talking a whole bunch of nonsense, accusing me of being an OSC agent, and I was working in cahoots with the sheriff. So let's say he gets a legal notice saying, hey, man, what you're saying is untrue, and here are the exhibits to show that it's untrue, right? From that point forward, that person, if they decide to continue the slander, defamation, now is open to a lawsuit, fines, all that kind of stuff. So censorship is not the way. Legal notices, telling them that what they're doing is wrong, is the way. And if they don't stop what they're doing, that's when you sue the bejesus out of them. It'll take 3 to 6 months to clean up all the nonsense if we go down that road of common law.
Eagle Run 23 says the article says them had unregistered guns. Are we talking 80s, like polymer, like P80s or polymer 80s, 80% firearms, ghost guns,
Look,
scary term,
I know.
or just not registered
No.
in California?
No, they're registered guns. Like, these were lawfully bought, registered guns. And so everything's a lie that they've said. They said a $5,000 bond, no such bond. I just got a ticket. They said, everything that came out of that man's mouth is a lie, other than probably my birth date. I mean, that's the one thing they got right.
Yeah.
So, fam, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. You're a Nevada resident, and this happened in California?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Not that I live in that part of the country, I live in Florida. What are the laws about having? You said a Glock, was it 17, 19? What was it?
So in California, you could only have 10 bullets in your gun. In Nevada, you're allowed to have 14, which is what I had.
Okay, and as far as going from Nevada to California with a Glock and a
Yeah,
shotgun,
there,
what are
there's no
the
there's no issue with that. I wasn't even
really?
cited for that. I was cited for the 14 bullets as well as my mag was in the gun, and this is the constitutional crisis we're about to face sooner or later due to this issue, and that's why this issue is so beautiful. Like I look at this as an opportunity, despite the fact that my life has been carpet bombed, and that is that when you have the mag separated from the gun, why are we giving the criminals the upper hand? The criminals have their
Sure.
bullet loaded in the chamber. Now you got now let's talk about why that's in place, right? Because I have a feeling, and I haven't done my research because of all this nonsense, but I remember growing up in Los Angeles, and I remember there was a lot of road rage shootings, right? So they probably came up with these laws to say, okay, if you're going to have a road rage situation, it takes longer to put in your mag and then get the bullet in the chamber before you road rage somebody, kill them or harm them, right? So they probably did it for that reason. But let's look at it like this. Okay, every year, well, how many road rage shootings are there? Like 10, 15, 20? Now let's look at how many people have died or been harmed because of that added, if you're super fast, 1 or 2 seconds. If you're slow, 3 to 5 seconds of putting your mag in, getting your bullet in the chamber, and then firing at the criminal, at which point you're either shot, dying, or injured. You know what I mean? So giving the criminals the upper hand because of this fear-based tactics always bites us in our ass. It's like the
Right.
Patriot Act. It's like fear, fear,
Oh,
fear. They take your rights away. Fear, fear, fear. They give you the COVID death jab. It just this is their technique. It's very obvious, and we can't fall for it. We can't go with the lowest common denominator. As a lawful gun owner, I can't be worried about getting arrested or being called a Trump assassin when I am parking my car in a parking lot and then walking half a mile to the Trump rally just because there was some mentally ill nut jobs that did some horrible things. That's not like we're the land of the free and the brave, and it's really easy to lose your freedom if you are not brave. You know what I mean? So it's very clear that this is just a tactic they use, and we gotta reject that. We can't go with the lowest common denominator and what mentally ill people do, and then dictate what our rights are based upon that.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. They gave the mic to the wrong person. Let me tell you that, dude. It's like I think about that. It's like they could have pulled over somebody else that didn't have the connection, resources, legal knowledge, and that person's life would have been destroyed. And that person wouldn't have been able to fight back despite the grotesque lies. So, they did this to the wrong person, with the right kind of connections, with the respect of our freedom community, with the respect because of the amazing work that we've done at the America Happens Network, which, by the way, if I could do a shameless little plug here, go to americahappens.com, check out our Bundy versus Deep State documentary. Believe me, it's going to be something very unique that you've never seen. Anybody that's seen that is blown away by what we captured. So I highly recommend that
Yeah,
documentary.
I watched it and I do recommend it. I do
Thank you.
recommend it. So, okay, I know, like, this kind of sucks what's happening to you, but is there any positive? Did you get like a lot more viewers on your network?
I'm not like unlike Bianco. It's like that's like it's nice for people to see the exposés we do because people need to know this so we can save this country. There's nothing narcissistic about that. In fact, I've taken effort to be behind the camera for over 30 years. And there's a history of that. There's a history of me working in Hollywood. Early on, when I started doing music videos, the music videos that I was doing became buzzworthy, nominated for awards, and so there was a lot of making the video episodes with me in there. And I remember when I used to walk on the streets in New York, especially Harlem, literally kids would come out of their apartment going, "Oh my God, that's Vem, the music video director that did DMX and Master P," and that sort of thing. But that was never my thing. I made an effort to stay away from the front of the camera. And the only thing I did since 2021 is the Blood Money podcast where I interview people. The rest of everything I do is behind the scenes. So I've never been looking for the spotlight like this. That's not been part of what I want to do. The thing that I think is amazing that's happening, and I knew that there was God's purpose behind this. The second I was arrested, I didn't look at it like it was torturous. Don't get me wrong; it was traumatic, but I knew there was God's purpose behind this. And the God's purpose behind this is making examples of corrupt individuals, starting a constitutional crisis, and using those to better this country and to make sure that other people understand, like these cops understand, you're bound by the Constitution. If something is good enough for the civilians. I hate using the word citizen actually because that has negative connotations. But if something is good enough for civilians, then that is good enough for the police. Meaning, if the stuff that this cop has done under the color of law would have put any one of us in jail for 300 years. Okay. And that should apply to the police with badges, and they should not be allowed to get away with crimes just because of their position.
Yeah, somebody said, was them able to stay clear of Diddy since you worked at DMX and stuff like that?
No, actually, that's a funny thing. That's another thing I was very transparent about. So in 2003, the DMX Wear the Hood At video really blew up and led to a lot more videos, led to doing videos. And I had a directing partner at the time. We were called Them and Tony. I mean, this is early internet, so there's still remnants of the work that we did at that time. And so, became kind of really big in that world. Diddy stole $30,000 from me in 2005. He's stolen from a lot of people. So I put it out there on my social media that I was supposed to do a video for him that I wrote. And last minute, he gave it to his buddy, stole my concept, didn't pay me the money that I was owed, right? So that was one experience with Diddy in 2005. And that was pretty much the end of my Diddy story. In 2003, 2004, as a young music video director, I got invited to some parties. And it wasn't these freak offs and salacious parties. It was really a Hampton party called the White Party. Everybody dresses in white. And what I've learned since then is that there was shady things happening in other areas. But the main area, which is the area that I was in, and remember, I'm not some big celebrity. I'm just a music video director. I'm not hanging out with whatever gay stuff was going on in the basement or upstairs. You know what I mean? It was just, I was at a party. I was like kind of overwhelmed by it all because, I think I was like 23 years old or something like that, and went to a couple of parties like that. And that was pretty much most of my interaction based upon, him knowing Bad Boy offered this Boys in the Hood music video. I signed a contract, I wrote the concept, and then I think the day of, he decided to hand my concept to another director, shoot the video, and not pay me. So that's pretty much most of my Diddy story. And having hung out with people like Mace that knew Diddy, this was actually like, I don't know, 4 years ago. I was at an event in a club where he was there. And we had this conversation. I mean, he stole so many songs from that guy. Mace should be a billionaire with the hits that he wrote for Diddy that Diddy did not pay him for. And very much like a lot of people around, sick individuals like that, Mace removed himself from that world. He became a priest. And imagine going from like a hip hop guy surrounded by these badunkadunks, you know what I mean? Like, and then going and saying that, hey, I'm going to become a priest because frankly, there's a lot of us out there that are just not into that like demonic lifestyle that, Diddy is a part of. And so, it's a repeated pattern of him having done a lot of horrible things, being protected. And by the way, when I wanted to sue him and get my $30,000, I was told specifically that if I tried to do that, he would destroy my career and I was better off just leaving it alone.
Yeah. When I was researching you, because I research everyone, it's just something I do. My autism kicks in, and I research people. I was surprised that you or hooked up with DMX and stuff like that. How did that happen?
I was a music video director. So in 2001, I directed a music video that was a very low budget video that became the biggest hit on MTV2, which had launched at the time. People were blown away that this was even possible because this was a time when they were spending $400,000 or $500,000 per video just to create something that would get on MTV. And all of a sudden, these two kids come along and they're doing these low budget videos that are competing with the big P. Diddy videos that are getting nominated with the big P. Diddy videos and other videos of the time. And so definitely got the attention of Rough Riders, the record label, and did the DMX video. And that is actually one of probably the most memorable experiences in my life because I was in close contact with DMX for probably 3-4 weeks. I'm talking about seeing him every other day while we're editing that. First pre-production, shooting the video, editing it, showing up to barbershops and hanging out with him and talking about the video concept. Showing up to like parking lots where the entire Rough Riders gang was hanging out. Just a lot of and that was actually very influential on my direction in life in terms of the America Happens network, AmericaHappens.com, because I remember one point it was shot in the Slow Bomb projects in New York. which the slang they do slow bomb, because pretty much it is a bomb in terms of what it does to children's lives and stuff. These projects, which are built like prisons, it's pretty much the fatherlessness prison, projects to prison pipeline. And I remember when I went to Chicago with Dee and Wah, the heads of the Rough Rider record label, they took me on a tour of the projects and basically said, look how they're built like prisons, right? And he explained to me why the Rough Riders, which is essentially a gang, had formed really is to provide positive male role models in communities where kids were going to the gangs, because the gang, when you don't have a father, the gangs become the father. And that's how a lot of these kids end up in crime. So they wanted to slow that down, to stop that process. And when he took me on a tour, he said, look, they're just built like prisons. Like, they're getting these children psychologically, it's psychological warfare upon the children. He didn't use that term, but now what I understand is it's psychological warfare upon the children, really to make sure that they're feeding the prison industrial complex using these vulnerable kids. So that tells you, I think, a lot about systematic, oppression of people. And it's been happening to the Black community for a very long time. And a lot of the fingerprints of that sort of thing is now aimed at all communities, by disempowering the men. Without a father, you'll go to prisons and it's like 95% the products of fatherlessness. But what do? They attack fathers, they attack toxic masculinity, they say. And this is just like a different form of genocide that they're doing. It's not like physical genocide, but it's mental genocide, and taking out the things that make society great, that make children strong. Evil, nefarious, demonic type shit.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I was always a huge DMX fan.
Yeah, he was an incredible person. It's funny, I read his biography or autobiography before filming that video. And don't get me wrong, man, he was definitely very mentally imbalanced. But he was also an angel. It's weird because you could tell it was his life's experiences, like growing up with a mother that was smoking crack, prostituting. He's a 5-year-old kid. He's watching his mom bring in multiple men into this one studio space and having sex while he's witnessing this, and then having to get into drugs. So that was a gentleman that I think, given the opportunity, given the right structure, really could have been such an amazing voice, far surpassing, honestly, a Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, because he just was brilliant. I was like, I don't cry often when, celebrities that I've worked with die, that one really hit me, because even though he was so immensely difficult to work with because of his, mental health issues and his drug addiction and all that, but he was also an incredible person, and it's hard to put into words. It's like a very polarizing individual. And he was a devout Christian. He was always, with all the layers of abuse and psychological abuse that he'd gone through, he was very much a man of God first and foremost. And that's one of the things I loved about that man.
Yeah, DMX was a complicated gentleman, but
Hmm.
a lot of people are complicated gentlemen. There's not one of us out here that's not a sinner.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
and
Listen,
everyone,
what's one of the funniest things he's ever said, DMX? Like, they're like, DMX, you don't write a lot about, like, sex and women and all that stuff. He's like, somebody said, I think, do you like sex or something? And he said, I like sex, but I like donuts too. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, that is the funniest shit I've ever heard, man. That's what it should be, really. And, you see this kind of like demonic agenda where they really push the sex, promiscuity. And when DMX said that, I'm like, wow, man, that's a really interesting spin on it. I like sex, but I like donuts too.
yeah, Eagle Run wants to know: were you in the Rough Riders video uh, uh, for their video? Did you do any cameo?
Physically in there,
Yeah.
there was cameos we did back in the day. I don't think I was in that one though. I don't know. It's I mean, this is like 21 years ago now, so I'd love to watch it and kind of see if, like, we stuck ourselves in there, because we did that sometimes. I know our Steadicam operator had a cameo in that. I know Buster Rhymes had a cameo. So did Fat Joe. But I don't recall with that one, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Rich wants to do a music video. You should direct his.
All right, let's go for it. Man. Comeback. I haven't directed anything since 2008, so this would be quite a comeback.
No, Rich. There's a guy on YouTube that does music. He's flying rich on YouTube, but there's a fly rich on YouTube,
Hmm.
which is I don't know if are you familiar with Fly Rich?
Nah. Is this an artist or?
Yeah, it's a black gay cowboy
Oh wow,
who
interesting.
raps country, does country rap.
Yeah, yeah. One of the funniest lines in that video, I don't know if you remember, it was controversial back then, and certainly much more controversial now, but he kind of made fun of Ja Rule and said, I give no love to homo thugs. I don't know if you remember that,
Yeah,
It's like, oh man, it's like that was such an experience, and there was a part of that video where Ayo Kato, his friend, had died, and it was like this kind of like, the soft song after "Where the Hood At," and it was so amazing, man. I'm like literally getting chills down my spine just thinking about that experience. It was so wild. It's like we set up all the lights in one corner, and it's like we're shooting right here. And it's like you got to, like the whole crew sweating with a pissed off DMX, like trying to move the lights and stuff. And then we're like, you know what, screw the lights. And it's so obvious we shot that thing with very little light, but it actually turned out very cool. Something that was shot in 20 minutes, but kind of became a legendary part of that video, with the rest of it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. One of the best concerts I ever been to was it was the Family Values tour back in the late
Oh,
'90s.
yeah.
It
Yep. Yep.
was DMX, Horn, and Limp Bizkit, and Orgy, which I wasn't really.
Orgy, forget about Orgy, but Korn and DMX together. I mean, that's fire. I've seen both of them live, and DMX, man, what a
Oh,
voice.
and Rammstein.
Rammstein's great too, man. I like Rammstein stuff. Yeah.
They got kicked off the stage because they came out with no clothes on.
Oh no way, that's funny. Tool used to do that too back in the day.
Yeah, so but yeah, it was a great concert.
Yeah, yeah.
It
I
was
was
on.
I was deep in the music scene. I mean, though all these bands you're talking about. I mean, I was like hanging out with them in the LA rock clubs back in the day. System of a Down, too, Incubus. A lot of bands that didn't blow up like crazy, but were still great bands like One Side Zero, Apex Theory.
Oh yeah, Apex Theory was awesome.
That's the first video of Apex Theory was the breakout video that got us started in the whole music video world. So that video, Hope Diggy, was the one
Oh,
that was shot 3.5 weeks after 9/11 in front of a towering building, kind of to send the message. And you could tell that I was a little bit like libtardy at that time, because we had this like world flag, and it was like United Nations type of deal, not understanding at that young age kind of what we're selling. But the essence of that video was really cool. A good friend of mine that I grew up with played the scuba diver in that video that joins all the other crazies at the party.
there another question. This is a good question. Are you still allowed at Trump rallies, or did they put like a no contact order or anything since the court
No,
case?
no, it's funny. I got an invite to the Las Vegas one. I'm not going to any Trump rallies anytime soon. I'm just like, I'm personally not going, but, not for any other reason other than I'm just not going to be in public for a real long time. I'm in an undisclosed location because of all these crazy, threats and things like that. There's a lot of headline readers out there that still think I'm like the third Trump assassin, and they might think that causing me harm equals helping Trump. So I'm staying away from anything public for a while now. Unfortunately, because of the kind of criminal deeds of that sheriff and his deputy and those around him, and I honestly I'd prefer it that way at this point. It's like I just don't want to be in public anywhere. I just did a press conference today for a lot of press. I mean, I don't know, man. 10 police officers came for protection because they're the ones that felt like the anti-terrorism unit, head of the anti-terrorism unit, felt that there was danger to my life. I had to hire a bodyguard. It's this kind of new insane reality, and I'd rather just lay low for a while now.
Yeah, who can blame you, right?
Yeah.
According to one article, you have another court date in January.
January 2nd, I'm supposed to show up for this, basically for what is a ticket. The most they could fine me per the law is $1,000. There's nothing beyond that they could do, or they could fine me $0. But having spoken with a constitutional attorney just a couple of hours ago, I'm not going to necessarily go to in the direction of paying for that ticket, but rather contesting it on constitutional basis and saying that these are unlawful statutory laws, that contradict the Constitution. And, let's start the constitutional crisis in California right there while this is nice and public, and remove those silly laws, or I wouldn't even call it laws, statutory laws, maritime laws that really harm lawful gun owners. We got to stop going to the lowest common denominator because of fear. And that is part of the blessings of this journey that we are now on because of the mistakes of the sheriff.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully something good will come out of it.
A lot of great things are going to come out of it. There's no way that God would have allowed this to happen, especially it could have been somebody else they pulled over that didn't have the wherewithal, legal knowledge and connections to deal with this sort of thing. Obviously, it was me, you know what I mean? And, we hit the jackpot the way I look at it. We hit the jackpot of a path to freedom and correcting issues and holding people accountable. So,
yeah, I read one conspiracy theory, which was way out there. And I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just because I thought it was like the most ridiculous thing I've ever saw. But are you a CIA plant?
I mean, no, and let's analyze that for a second. You know what I mean? Like,
You've probably seen that though, right?
What's up?
You've probably seen that conspiracy theory.
Oh, I've heard the Russian thing, the MI5, MI6. All of this would be predicated upon essentially the sheriff Bianco and I being in cahoots with one another, right? Because I can't, through like telepathy and mind control his actions. So this only would have happened due to the action reaction, right? So that would be predicated upon me knowing what his reaction would be, right? So, at this point, I don't know if there's any logic to that, because the sheriff's political career is destroyed and unless, we sat there at CIA office headquarters and said, we're going to carpet bomb both of our lives, put my parents at risk. My parents got a 5-day eviction notice because I go to that home to caretake for them since they're so old and they need my help on a temporary basis. It's outlandish theories. And a lot of these guys, like there's a guy named George Webb. There's another one that's named Ariel, who's like the proliterate or something on his social media. There's another guy named Marty Waters that they, before it was like we would discuss within America Happens, because these are the people that come up with these crazy stories. Like there's a sex tape with Kamala and Diddy, and then they get like, million likes or views or whatever. And now I think they've exposed themselves on the account of the story and how they've handled it and the crazy theories that they've come out with. Just like the one we just discussed, where you analyze and you're like, okay, it's impossible. It's impossible to read somebody's mind and know their reaction to an action. And it just falls apart when you actually take those things into consideration. Not to mention that you look at my history and it's like for 6 years, I've been an adamant Trump supporter, going against the mainstream media, going against people that are on my Facebook accounts. I mean, it would have to be so deep undercover with so many elements that are uncontrollable, being controlled, that it just, once you think about it on a deeper level, it's just ridiculous. But that tells you something about some of these hacks on our side that make us look like conspiracy theorists nuts and give, really fruit to the other side, give them fodder on the other side to say that, look at these crazy Trumpers. And frankly, Sheriff Bianco was one of these people because, the thing that they want to get the media, and that's why probably they blew up the story so much, is look at these anti-government, gun crazy Trumpers. and he served it on a silver platter, and he was too shallow and ambitious in his own gains to not even notice what he was doing. He actually caused damage to the Trump campaign. The beauty of this, though, is because, as you could tell, with all this like Hollywood credits and everything, a lot of people know me there, and they might hate my politics, but then they saw somebody they know whose politics they hate that's been telling them fake news, fake news, fake news for the last 6 years to their face, now be a victim of the fake news. And that's got to be a knife that gets pretty close to the ribs, because now I think they see, and I think a lot of people that wouldn't have voted for Trump are going to vote on the account that what happened to me is now too close to home, because they know I am not an assassin type character. In fact, I've been contacted by people, that I haven't heard from in years, some decades, that are like, yo, dude, I heard the news. The shit is crazy. I know you're not an assassin. I know we've had our differences, but whoa, this is just nuts. And let that marinate a little bit and let him go fill in that box for Donald Trump and Vance.
Yeah. I did see a picture of you and Vivek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of pictures like that, with RFK. I might have some out there with the Trump sons, and General Flynn certainly, and a lot of people from the freedom movement and stuff. Which honestly, it's not something I did a lot before when I was in Hollywood. I always thought that was like kind of what the cheesy pictures you find in Italian restaurants. You know what I'm saying? When the owner takes pictures with celebrities that come in, I thought that was just kind of corny. But started making a practice of people that I enjoy their company, their policies, their intellectual minds, to take pictures of with them, as I became deeper into this movement.
Yeah. Was there one moment that made you go from you said you were basically like liberal when you were younger,
Yeah.
but you are now?
Well, the curve was that once I became like even like peripherally knowledgeable of politics, George W. Bush was the first person in my youth, and I despised what he did. So that made me go Democrat, thinking that Barack Obama was going to save us, right? Because hope change. I was thinking it's hope change away from the military industrial complex, these fake wars, the deprivation of our rights via Patriot Act, the housing crisis that almost crashed the economy. I thought Obama was the guy because he was selling hope change, right? Then I realized these are very vague terms, and he's talking about a different kind of hope change than I was hoping for. 2015, I started becoming interested in Trump, and it's really my experience producing reality shows that was why I became so passionate about Donald Trump, because there's a trick in producing reality shows called Frankenbiting, where you're Frankensteining footage to create different realities, to create false realities. Around this same time, Jeff Zucker, who I've worked with, and he's a crappy reality show producer whose job is to create conflict, destroy marriages in order to get that kind of conflict-driven entertainment, then becomes head of CNN. And I'm like, whoa, that's a really weird person to hire to run a news organization. Then I start seeing these reality show tricks being used in the news by Frankenbiting things that Trump does or the people on the right do to make him seem insane, including stuff like what happened with, the dudes with the torches, white supremacists, all that stuff that they try to attribute to Trump. And I'm like, whoa, you guys are taking, like, I've seen the raw unedited footage before they did these editing tricks. And I'm like, whoa, you guys are taking like reality, twisting it to create fake conflict, just like you do in reality shows. And then that's causing blood on the streets. Whoa, that seems like treason. You know what I mean? Because you're literally causing people to die on the streets because you're creating a fake version and trying to build this racist, orange man bad narrative. And that kind of completed its arc in 2018 when I became all in with Donald Trump, knew that they were bullshit, couldn't no longer stomach working for those organizations, for those big media companies, and pretty much left that business as a result, left huge paydays on the table as a result. But like, when you're a Christian, it becomes clear you're working for the devil and doing things to destroy the country as opposed to enrich the country. And by that point, I also start noticing that anything of quality, and I hate the British, I'll be straight with you. The one thing I would give the British is that their entertainment is actually fruitful, educational, and there's more to it than what the TV networks out here do, right? So I was trying to bring that sort of content where you actually learn something, and every single time it would go to the lowest common denominator, where something that could have been a great show was then reduced to garbage entertainment. And that whole, melee of crap I was dealing with would just made it where it was unacceptable to be part of that machine anymore. And so around the same time that I fully left the business is when like I was fully supportive of Donald Trump.
Awesome. All right. Well, we've been on for an hour, so we're gonna wrap it up here. But go ahead, plug whatever you want.
Yeah.
Talk about your website, your Rumble channel, whatever you want to talk about.
So AmericaHappens.com is our website. We produce uncensored media, and please check out our Bundy versus Deep State documentary first and foremost, as well as a lot of the other great pieces that we've done, including Mindy Robinson's Route 91 documentary about the cover-up of the Las Vegas mass shooting. We did an episode of, which is kind of like a pseudo documentary with Roger Stone about the JFK assassination, where we essentially dissect his book, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, which really gets into the details of how it was done, who was involved, how it was executed. And so just, follow us, check out our AmericaHappens.com website, subscribe to our Rumble channel, check out my Twitter, not Ben Miller, also America Happens One, which is our company Twitter, also I Heart Mindy, which is Mindy Robinson's Twitter or X. And check out what we do. I mean, we put this stuff out to educate the people and reverse the tide of the very nefarious mainstream media,
All right. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, Rich, for joining me. And stay there for 1 second, Vim.
Okay. No problem.